Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. And today I'm going to be talking about the Joker box office, and I have already done a video for the Geeks and Gamers channel, so that should either be already out or about to come out or be coming out later today, talking about the entire box office and going into a little bit more detail on the numbers here. But I wanted to do a special video for this channel because I kind of got started with the channel breaking down box office numbers, doing a little bit of the maths, which obviously some people are not too big a fan of because, math is not the best thing out there and it's not the most entertaining thing out there, but I do what I possibly can. But Joker has indeed repeated at number one at the box office, destroying films like Addams Family and Parasite, and also Gemini Man. Parasite actually did pretty well, seeing that it only came out at a few theaters and ended up making much more than people had expected. Apparently, at the small theaters it did release at, ended up selling out those theaters, so that's actually pretty good for an independent film like that. However, Joker has utterly destroyed everything else, including Gemini Man, which looks like, yet again, another box office flop for the year 2019. I feel like we've had way too many of those, but some interesting facts about the box office for the Joker thus far this year. It is indeed, in fact, the second, or rather, it is now the largest October 2nd weekend of all time domestically here. It's beating out Gravity's $43.2 million back in 2013, which used to be the highest grossing, second weekend at the box office. So Joker is doing extremely well in its second weekend with only a 43% drop. That is extremely low. Most films tend to see around a 50 to 60% drop, sometimes even more than that from week one to week two. So that means that a lot of people are going to see it. It means that a lot of people are enjoying it. It means that a lot of people are going back for second or even third viewings, and that is extremely impressive. What's even more impressive is the fact that the Joker has now made over $500 million. That's right. It has now made $543.9 million at the box office. That is insane. That is the first 2 weeks of its showing, meaning it still has plenty of more weeks left to go. And if indeed the rule of thumb remains true, and this film has made at least 60% of its entire box office, you're looking at a film that's going to make close to $900 million at the box office by the end of its run, which means that this film is going to be possibly one of the highest grossing DC films of all time. It's easily going to destroy that crappy film known as Justice League, which made $657.9 million and ended up kind of barely making a profit, seeing how much money they put into it production-wise and also in the marketing for the film as well. But that is truly insane. So where am I getting some of these numbers for, right? So you see $543 million. Well, the rule of thumb is this, that most films tend to make around 60% of their entire box office within the first couple weeks of their release. And so because we know that, because that tends to be true, we can do some reverse math here. We can do some reverse engineering to find out what the actual totals are likely going to be. So let's assume the best case scenario, which is that let's say this is only 50% of its box office, meaning it's going to make another $543 million. I don't think that's going to happen, but let's assume that it will. If you take the math on that, so for those that don't like percentages, let me try and break it down for you really quick. So if we're taking 60%, what is 60%? 60 over 100, right? So let's make it even easier at 6 over 10. If we're going to reverse engineer that, what you would do is you'd multiply the 543 million by 10 and then divide it by 6. And then that would give you the actual total of the number itself of what you're trying to find, which would be about $1.1 billion. So if it's 50%, this film is going to at max make $1.1 billion. I don't think it's going to quite get that high, but it definitely could. Now, let's assume that's actually 50 over 100. Sorry, let me just clarify that. That would be 50 over 100 or 5 out of 10, or otherwise multiply it by 2 to make it a little bit easier for yourself. But let's assume that it's 60%, like the number I suggested that it likely will get closer to. At that point, you're looking at a film that would make $900 million, because if you multiply it by 10 divided by 6, you get to $900 million, which means that the range on this film is likely going to be somewhere between $900 million and $1.1 billion, which would make it one of the highest grossing films of all time. I like how under BoxOfficeMojo.com, they now have this film under the controversy genre, which is hilarious to me for so many reasons, and it's so stupid. I kind of want to see what else is in here. The Passion of the Christ. Oh man, and now they have the controversies. I never knew this. I never knew this before. Oh my goodness. This is... Oh my goodness gracious. So they have here the controversy and also the controversy that's surrounding a specific film. So Passion of the Christ is number one with anti-Semitism. The Da Vinci Code being anti-Christian. Day After Tomorrow because it deals with global warming. Oh my goodness. This is just amazing. And of course, Ghostbusters 2016 on the list. I'm surprised it's that high up because that film made no money. But anyway, getting back to the Joker, I kind of want to see currently where it stands right now as far as the DC Comics branding. And so as you see right now, it's currently at number 12. This is just the domestic totals. Let's try and get, if we can get to the worldwide totals here. So worldwide unadjusted right now, you're looking at the film sitting pretty at number 9 with $543 million, which means that it will probably overtake Justice League by next weekend. So in the first 3 weeks, it will have made more than Justice League, which tells you all you need to know about the Justice League film. That means it won't be long after that it passes up films like Man of Steel, Suicide Squad, even Wonder Woman. It has a very good chance of passing up, which is very, very surprising because Wonder Woman actually got a China release. Joker did not, which tells me all I need to know about how well it's doing domestically and also in the foreign market, despite not having that release. And it could potentially, before adjusting for inflation, of course, it could potentially get in the range of The Dark Knight, which made a little over $1 billion. Now, do I think it's going to get to the $1 billion mark? If I had to be honest, I would say probably not. The main thing that could lead to that happening is if the legs on this film are strong. They already seem to be pretty strong. Having about a 40% drop, a 43% drop from week 1 to week 2 is a very strong indicator that this film is not slowing down anytime soon. We are currently in the month of October. There really aren't that many other October releases that are going to be able to provide a really substantial competition to it. We have movies like Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, which again, I personally have no interest in seeing. There might be some families out there that have some interest in seeing a sequel that no one asked for, but hey, who knows? And that's really the only big Disney release that's coming out this month, and Disney seems to be the only real big juggernaut at the box office this year, and I imagine that Mistress of Evil will probably become closer to the number that Dumbo did, which is not that impressive, rather than getting to the numbers of that of Aladdin. But of course, I could be wrong on that because we all know that the Disney machine is very strong. The point is this. If even we take the number at 60%, if the $543 million it's made so far is even just 60% of the entire total it's going to make, and that means that it would get close to the $900 million mark, you're looking at a film that could even pass up BVS at the box office. Batman v Superman, which used to be the standard, and of course, Aquaman came in and just whooped that ass because Aquaman was just so much of a better film than Batman v Superman was for so many different reasons. But if this film is going to be, as far as the DC universe is concerned, one of the top 5 highest grossing films, which it's very likely going to do at this point, if indeed the numbers are consistent and keep moving forward, that is extremely impressive. Keep in mind that all of the movies mentioned here, Aquaman, Dark Knight Rises, Dark Knight, Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman, Suicide Squad, Man of Steel, Justice League, all of those films had insane budgets. When you look at all of those films, those are all films that had over $100 million in budget. Dark Knight alone had a $185 million budget. The one that's going to be really, really sad to see is Justice League, because Justice League had about a $500 million budget or so, and that's including, or not even including marketing, which means that that film likely just didn't even make much of a profit at the box office. It probably made it back in the long run on the post-theatrical release on DVD and Blu-ray and such, because I know a lot of hardcore DC fans went out and bought that stuff regardless of how bad the movie was, but that's neither here nor there. But the fact that Joker was only made for $55 million, and this film is going to make close to $900 million. Between 900, I would say, and $1.1 billion is truly a feat. That means that it could potentially be the highest percentage-wise grossing film in the DC universe of all time. And where do I get that number from? I get that from the fact that because all the other films cost $150, if not more, $150 million or more in their production budget, including marketing, adding on marketing to that, getting them closer to like a $250 million cost at the very least. Compare that to the $55 million and the end result of around an $80 to $85 million when you add in the actual marketing budget for the film. That means that almost all of the money that it makes is going to be pure profit. And even if it only gets 60% of that box office, that's an insane amount of profit. So you could have the most profitable DC film in the Joker because it was made for so little and it's doing so well. This makes me so happy because you don't see films like Joker doing this kind of money. You don't see films that are actually legitimately good films, that are actually more serious action crime dramas that really aren't all that action heavy, does not rely on CGI or anything like that, getting into some of the top movies of the year. If we look to the actual top movies of the current year, all of them are northwards of $1 billion worldwide, which include films like Toy Story 4, Captain Marvel, Spider-Man Far From Home, Lion King, and Avengers Endgame. Most of those films are pretty bad. Far From Home was entertaining to me. I gave that film a B. Endgame sucked. Lion King sucked. Captain Marvel sucked. Toy Story 4 sucked. So if this film can somehow get on that list, which would be very hard to do, it would have to pass up films like Toy Story 4, which if it does indeed get to that 50% sweet spot of making 50% more than what it's already made, you could potentially see that happen. Do I think it's going to happen? Not necessarily. And the reason why, of course, is because of the fact that it's a film in October that's going to do well. However, it does not have a China release like all the other films on this list have. If this film had a China release, this film would definitely be probably the third highest grossing film of the year, because I would tack on another $200 million from China. But unfortunately, they're not going to get it. It would be really awesome for the Chinese government to just get their heads out of their asses, as South Park's been calling them out recently for, and actually allow people to live freely. Freedom is a beautiful thing. It'd be wonderful if China actually allowed their people to have a little bit of freedom and see the movies that they actually want to see, instead of trying to control everything and control the narrative of everything. And it would be amazing. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen unless, of course, the people say screw you to the government, which is happening in Hong Kong, with some people being quite violent. And I don't obviously support violence. However, defense, I think, is definitely something that is worth being defended. And I think that I support anyone that's going to be defending themselves in that way. But anyway, political aside, I think that's amazing that this film is likely going to get to the $900 million at minimum towards the end of its run, and could potentially even reach $1 billion. And it's amazing. So what are your thoughts about this? Did my math make any sense to you? Again, 6 over 10, multiplied by 10, divided by 6. That's how you get the total number, if it indeed is the 60% of the total, because 540 is 60% of $900 million. Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. So if you want to go ahead and do your own math on that and what you think the overall range will be, my range is going to be between somewhere around $900 million, maybe as low as 850, and going up to upwards of $1.1 billion. It would be even more if I thought that if China was a part of the discussion right now, the film would already have beaten, in my mind, would probably have already beaten Justice League, which would be absolutely insane. But let me know your thoughts about this and all the things we talked about in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash the like button, give us a subscribe. It helps us a lot. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.